Hi everybody and welcome back. As we go into Module 3, I really hope that you've learned to identify your core values. With some practice, you should be able to identify what your triggers are. But as important as that, it's not enough just to know what triggers you have. It's the ability to regulate yourself. And this module is all about self-regulation. It's easy to know that you have a trigger and that you're getting angry, but how do you contain that emotion? How do you avoid acting impulsively? How do you make good decisions? And how do you know when to walk away from a situation? Self-regulation is literally the ability to choose your emotions or behavioral response. Now, there's two types of responses. There's the emotional self-regulation, where you have the ability to control and influence your emotions, and there's the behavioral self-regulation, where you have the ability to control your behavior. Self-awareness is the first step in self-regulation. So examples of some poor self-regulation, it's when you impulsively just quit a job. You just decide you're going to get up and walk out because you haven't thought a situation through. You refuse help from other people when you literally know you need that help. You suddenly give up on your dreams and goals after you've aspired to them for 2 or 3 years. You stop taking care of your health. You randomly start insulting other people. And you're using gender and racial issues and inappropriate remarks. These are all poor regulation things. You start befriending an old friend on Facebook, which could be very, very dangerous. You start using things like alcohol as a crutch or sleeping tablets. You start procrastinating and you start spending money poorly. This is what we want to combat, and we want to help you to change some of those habits. Failure to regulate your emotions and behaviors will have negative consequences in your relationship. So the example of the Facebook example is if you're feeling down and low and not happy with your marriage, it doesn't help to befriend an old boyfriend on Facebook. All it does is that triggers worse circumstances. So how do we combat them? It's not hard to cause damage in your relationship when you have little control over yourself. So if you overspend, you need to understand the consequences it'll have on your family. If you use alcohol as a crutch, you must understand the damaging effects that it has on your family. Your relationship get constantly eroded and get worse when you don't manage yourself. So self-regulation in a nutshell, some people think that only intellectual intelligence counts, knowing how to solve problems, knowing how to get by, knowing how to identify and take advantage and seize it. But without self-regulation, the functions of intellect are insufficient without courage, love, friendship, compassion, and empathy. So, how do we enhance our ability to self-regulate? Just as you learned how to play the piano, just as you learned how to walk, you can learn how to regulate your emotions. It's a very, very powerful skill that will lead you to have a better life in many, many different ways. Because like I said previously, we sometimes can be our own worst enemy. So here are some of the ways that you can self-regulate. Meditation is a very, very powerful tool. Now, meditation is not as in airy, fairy, and any sort of religious connotations, but just self-reflection of how we feel and how we think and taking out some quiet time. The other thing that really is very, very powerful in understanding your emotions is journaling. Maybe at the end of the day, jot down a few things about your day. What made you happy? What made you sad? How did you react? That helps you to change your thinking and calms you down and makes you better. It's also very good to be mindful of other people. You see somebody wearing a dress every single day or every second day, and automatically most people want to be critical. But if you're mindful, you'll realize that they're wearing that dress not because they want to, but because their finances are in poor shape. And you just you just start thinking a different way. So you become mindful of other people's circumstances. And your emotional state allows you to observe that other people have poor circumstances. Another big one, and I'm not going to delve into it in too much detail, but sleeping regular 8 hours a day helps you to regulate your emotions, helps you to live on an even keel. Again, diet plays a very big part of emotional intelligence. Now, it sounds silly that you put the two together, but if you eat correctly and you don't fill yourself with sugars and carbs, and 1 minute you're on a major high, the next minute you're feeling very, very sluggish, if you eat your 3 meals a day so that you don't get hangry. I mean, my husband is one of those people who gets hangry if he doesn't have his meals on time. So think about those things because they do definitely affect your behavior. And possibly also look at how exercise impacts you. You should exercise more regularly. And a big thing that helps you change the way you think is working and building your self-confidence. If you are not self-confident, ultimately you retract or you behave badly or you are not really great to deal with. And self-confidence is something can also be acquired, but it is something that will take time to work on. When you're not feeling good about yourself, you're more likely to do something silly, you're more likely to be rude or obnoxious or whatever, and you do things that you think will make you feel better, but they generally don't. When your self-confidence is high, you think and act in a more predictable manner. You're less concerned about what other people think, and it's easier to stay true to your values. You're not out to please people. It helps you stay focused on your goals. So let's look at some of the ways we can look at to boost our self-confidence. Is really catch yourself thinking every day positive thoughts. When you find yourself thinking negatively, you could have a tune that you play in your head, like la 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 la, and stop yourself in your track. Focus on thinking positive thoughts. Dress nicely. I've always had a principle, no matter how you feel in the morning, get up, dress up, and go out. Because you always feel better when you look better. If you hang around in your pajamas all day or a tracksuit all day and you don't pay any attention to yourself, it very rarely leads to great self-confidence. Be kind, be aware of your successes, things that you've done well, and pat yourself on the back for those. Learn to stand tall and to be proud, and build your skill, no matter what that skill is. Even if you just learn, I'll take a very stupid example. My sister couldn't even send a WhatsApp. Even if you learn to send a WhatsApp, pat yourself on the back for a new skill learned and achieve small goals. Another way to calm the way you feel and to get more self-confidence is self-soothing. Now, what do I mean by self-soothing? Well, the vast majority of bad decisions or poor decisions happen when you're feeling bad. But find an effective way of making yourself feel better. Use the methods we've already discussed. I also find that reading positive books or motivational books or listening to podcasts that are positive instantly make me feel better. So how do we look at negative emotions and what to do with those? Well, to self-soothe when you find that you've got a negative emotion, notice how you're experiencing it. How does it make you feel physically? Sometimes people really feel physical pain when they're not feeling themselves. And how do you describe that feeling? Now, just observe it over time, and eventually, when you're feeling really, really angry with someone, think about it. Think about why you're feeling that way. Think about how it's affecting your body mentally. And the more you think about it, the more it will dissipate instead of growing. So you need to be very, very conscious of doing it. And if you're prepared to self-soothe, you won't do things that you'll regret later. The other thing that helps you build your self-esteem, build courage, make you a better person, and definitely have more emotional intelligence is to practice self-discipline. Write a few things that you want to do, write them down, and do them. Like, do you want to go on diet? Do you want to exercise 20 minutes a day? Do you want to tidy the garage? I love another book that I'll refer you to was called Eat That Frog, listing everything that you want to do, and possibly doing the easiest one first. Or what I liked about the book, it says, find that frog, find the thing that you desperately don't want to do, and just do that one first and get it over and done with. But basically form some self-discipline. Stop deliberating, stop procrastinating, and just start feeling like a winner. Okay, once you've completed the task, give yourself a pat on the back, acknowledge your self-discipline, and it makes you feel integrous, it makes you feel better about yourself, and self-discipline also makes you more reliable. When you self-regulate, you avoid the long-term consequences of impromptu, thoughtless behavior. So when you learn to understand those things, you don't do things that are not acceptable publicly. So the question is, the impromptu behavior, walking out on a job, can you afford to lose that job? Or being rude to somebody, do you want to ruin a great friendship long-term because of an immediate outburst? So just look at the long-term perspectives of some of the things that you do. Personal experience, I know me. I had a fight with my mother at a very, very young age. She said things that were completely untrue and inappropriate. But bottom line is, I've learned to forgive her because I have emotional intelligence, but I've never forgotten. And so just when you don't have a degree of emotional intelligence, you're going to leave other people scarred. So just think about those. So bad outbursts cause tension, and they leave people feeling really bad about you. So to sum up this module, we want to just say that individuals with short-term focus struggle, where those with long-term focus thrive. And you really want to be somebody who focuses on your future as opposed to the now and what you want to say. So working on yourself is difficult, but it really, really is worth it. And now at the end of this module, as with all the others, I want to encourage you to take the time to think about, are you able to self-regulate? Are you able to calm yourself down? What are the most important components that you use not to have outbursts and not to do things that offend and insult other people? So really work hard on the questions in Module 3.